From 1978, it's Hooper, starring Burt Reynolds and Sally Field. Now, this was directed by Hal Needham, who was a former stuntman and one of the best stuntmen ever. And it's sort of biographical of him. It's also a little bit biographical of Sally Field's real-life stepfather, whose name was Jocko. And in the movie, her father is also named Jocko, and he's played by Brian Keith. And this is a great movie about what goes on behind the scenes in a movie. It's also a great comedy, and it kind of reunited the team that did Smokey and the Bandit.
Yes, I actually really liked this movie. What I was getting from this movie was that there really wasn't too huge of a reason. It was to show you what stunt guys do, but other than that, there wasn't a reason to the movie. But I still liked the movie, and I think that says something.
It was a lot of fun, right?
Right.
Now, you watched a version that I had recorded off broadcast TV many years ago, so it was edited for content. So there might be some things in there that a kid wouldn't watch, but in this version, it was fine. Also, it has some extra scenes that didn't appear in the movie theaters. There's a scene where Ski talks to Sally Field's character in the kitchen while everybody else is watching the stunt films in the living room, and he has a conversation with her. There's also a scene in it where Ski gets upset because Sonny basically tells the director of the film that they're not doing the stunt, and he says that Ski can't do it alone because he can't handle it. And Jan-Michael Vincent's character gets a little bit upset at that, and he kind of gets into a fight with Sonny, and there's a moment where you wonder if he paralyzed Sonny. So these scenes only appeared on television and never appeared in the broadcast version, and if you get the DVD, you don't see those scenes either. So it's interesting.
That is interesting. I never saw the movie version, so I don't have anything to compare it to, but I will say that this movie, it was interesting. I've never watched a comedy, I guess, that had like very dangerous stuff in it, and you really cared for Sonny, and you wondered, especially where he was just like staying still in the car after they did the big stunt. I kind of wondered why this comedy was making me feel for Sonny as much as I did, and why I was so nervous for him. And I did like the comedy, and it was very interesting because it's not like a comedy I've ever watched before. It's not like Abbott and Costello. Again, it's dangerous.
You know, Burt Reynolds is very charismatic, and he's got a lot of appeal on camera, and I loved his films. As a kid, he was one of the people I idolized. At one point, he was supposed to play Han Solo. He was somebody that they wanted to play Han Solo. Also James Bond. I don't know necessarily that he would have worked in those characters, although I think he was a decent actor, and his appeal, his charm, certainly would have come through. Here you're looking at generations of stuntmen. You have Jocko, who was the big stuntman at one time, and then Sonny came in and sort of unseated him. And now Ski's kind of on the scene, and Sonny's kind of at the tail end of his career. Also James Best, who was friends with Burt Reynolds in real life, he plays another stuntman, Cully, who's older, and he doesn't really do stunts anymore. And they just have this great friendship and this great camaraderie, and it's that time period, that late 70s time period. They have a lot of fun. But you do get to see a lot of movie making here. And pretty much The Fall Guy, the television show with Lee Majors, I think Donald Belisario, and I guess it was Glenn Larson specifically in that case, I think he took the idea of this film and created The Fall Guy, which was also appealing. A lot of people, that has a big following.
This movie actually made me see why in the Mission Impossible films he wanted to do his own stunts. Because in this movie that they're making, it doesn't seem like the main guy, I don't know if we saw his name or whatever, but it doesn't seem like the main guy, the main character, does too much that's very exciting. I know he acts and whatever, but he doesn't do like exciting action stuff. So it made me wonder, why don't a lot of actors do some of their stunts? I get not all of them, but some of them.
Well, the guy you're talking about is Adam West, who would play Batman in the 1960s. He played Batman back in the 1960s TV series, very popular. And he's playing a version of James Bond. This movie within the movie that they're making is pretty much a send-up of the James Bond films of the era. And it's very much like The Spy Who Loved Me. Even the music is very James Bond in it. And they play this for humor sometimes with Adam West because they'll get him all rigged up, to do this scene where he's supposed to get on a wire and slide down, and he goes about 6 inches and they stop him, and then they substitute the stuntman for him.
Right.
And they're playing that for humor. And there was a time period in Hollywood where you could not insure the actors to do the stunts. So it was the stuntmen specifically, because the star, if something happened to the star, the movie would stop shooting and they'd lose lots of money. So that was a big deal. Nowadays, a lot of bigger stars will do their own action scenes, and Tom Cruise is an excellent example of that. Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones did a lot of his stunt scenes. Roger Moore as James Bond didn't, and I think they're kind of having some fun with that. But Roger Moore was friends with Burt Reynolds. He actually did the Cannonball Run films with him after this, or at least the first one, and he spoofed himself as James Bond. So that was pretty fun. But I thought Adam West was great here. He's a lot of fun. He's funny. He's very tongue-in-cheek.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I actually really liked all of the characters, and especially Sonny. I think that knowing that he was Bandit and Smoking the Bandit, and I don't know how many times I could rewatch that movie and not like it. Either way.
You mean you did like it?
Well, yes.
You just did a double negative, which said that you didn't like it, but I know you love that movie.
Yes, but knowing that he played Bandit, I think that added to the humor and to the movie in general for me.
Certainly, it's a great formula. Hal Needham was the director of both. The car chases, the stunts here are great. There's some great set pieces. It still holds up today in a lot of ways. Now, you had Sally Field in here, and they were dating in real life, so they had chemistry, certainly. Jan-Michael Vincent plays Ski. He's the younger stuntman that comes in. Now, I had seen him as a kid in Danger Island, which was part of the Banana Splits cartoon special. It was the live action segment, and he was in the Danger Island segments. It's the first thing I remember seeing him in. He'd done Damnation Alley, which was a movie about a year before this, and they actually called the last segment of this movie where they're destroying that little town. Mm-hmm. And Jan-Michael Vincent's driving the car and Sonny's working the instruments. They called that the Damnation Alley scene to be kind of funny. And he would go on to do Airwolf, which was the Donald Belisario movie, which was a takeoff of Blue Thunder. See, they do that all the time. And after that, his career he had problems, and his career really never went anywhere after that. But when you see him in this film, he was a lot of fun here, and he was very good, and he fits the part really well. Brian Keith is a favorite of mine. I've always loved him. I thought he was great in everything I'd ever seen him in, and I like him as the older stuntman here, and he has a lot of fun. Terry Bradshaw even has a good part in this. Mm-hmm. And I pointed out to you, Terry Bradshaw was a quarterback. And a quarterback, when you look at a football game, is usually one of the smaller guys on the team. Mm-hmm. And when he walked up to that table, he was a big guy back then, right? Very big guy. But that's a great scene. That brawl is a great scene because it's all played for comedy, and it's very funny.
That's one of the things I love about the movie. I think there's one more scene other than in the bar or restaurant. I think there's one more scene where there's so much going on, or maybe two more. There's so much going on, but you love it anyway. And sometimes I will get confused who was who and who was on what team, but it didn't matter. I was having fun, and I could tell that they were having fun too. Or it seemed like that anyway.
And that's the biggest thing with so many of these movies from that era. You can see them having fun. Mm-hmm. On camera. And so you as the audience member have fun. And Burt Reynolds would be interviewed and he'd say, nobody's planning on going home with a statue for this. We're just having fun, and we were taking the audience along for the ride. And it's really very much a time capsule of that period. And since I was like 9 or 10 years old at the time, for me, these are great memories, and I love these films. Smokey and the Bandit, Hooper, I think they're great films. So for me, back in the day, this was one to see, and I think it still holds up and still is one to see.
For me, one to see, I'm starting to think that I really like the guy who plays Bandit in Smokey and the Bandit, because I liked him as Sonny too. So, I think all of his movies are great
All right.
that I've seen.
See what I did there?
Oh, Daddy.